You're watching New Leaves on Life. A quick update, and then I'll get into the topic of the video. Went to the doctor. He ran a series of tests, but the most frightening of the test results was my vitamin D. Now, I knew nothing about vitamin D prior to taking that test. And after taking that test, I became a vitamin D expert. Of course, vitamin D, you get that from being out in the sun and being exposed to the sun. It's the UVB rays, if I'm not mistaken, that your body absorbs through the skin. My vitamin D level was 8. It's supposed to be between 30 and up, right? Between 30 and 70 or 30 and 80 in some practices and different in others. So I found a vitamin D supplement. So I started taking 50 KIU, international units, 50,000 international units a day. And I've been doing that for a month. I no longer have that fatigue problem. So that part was fixed. It did not do anything for my apathy. Moving forward, one of my parts is procrastination. And procrastination is a little devil, because it will have you putting things off forever. And I've been putting off the IFS therapy ever since I changed my insurance, and not at least as the IFS therapy modality says, to do it yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're talking to a therapist and they're guiding you, they're directing you and asking you questions, but it's really only you going inside and parenting and nurturing yourself. So I hadn't really tried that, procrastinating and being distracted. And as a result of that, things have gotten a lot worse with me, in my household, in my marriage, and just my overall state of being. Anyway, the goal here is to get this resolved. During my 1 year stink of not doing IFS therapy, I've still been researching subconscious things. I've still been, looking into IFS, and there are a few individuals on YouTube that I'm subscribed to that I occasionally watch just to keep it in mind. Earley was one. I bought a couple of ebooks from him. Richard Schwartz. Bought 2 copies of You Are the One You're Waiting For, or Waiting On, or whatever the title is. I bought 2 of those. That particular book is about relationships. One, having some issues, some childhood wounds, some exile, so to speak, and how in your relationship you can work through that with your spouse or with your significant other. And me and my wife began to read that as of last night, and just alone doing that is designed to help her get an idea of how to deal with it from her perspective, as well as give me more insight into the IFS therapy and how to engage in that. But the third individual that I'm subscribed to and watched a lot of his videos, his name is Pete Gerlach. He was a therapist. He found out about IFS therapy back in the early 80s when it was fairly young, and had been practicing it for some 20 years. And a lot of the information that the gentleman speaks about is very valuable, very useful. And he labeled the IFS therapy modality as parts work. And if you know anything about IFS therapy, it is about working your individual parts, or as he likes to call them, your subcells. And he actually passed away, I believe it's the summer of last year, or it might have been the summer of the year before, I'm not exactly sure. But before doing so, he was putting together his website. The website itself is free. It's an actual course. It's a 7-part course. The first part starts, of course, with IFS therapy, or the parts work section. It's a little... He was an engineer. He studied engineering. He was also a psychotherapist, but A lot of people who approach his site realize that he kind of put it together in an engineering manner, and it's a little overwhelming for me. And then my procrastinator part, of course, is just dragging his feet because of the overwhelmingness, as well as being distracted from life itself. But something he said on the lesson one was that lesson one is kind of, it was either pulled out or put in of this book. This is his book. It's called Who's Really Running Your Life? Free Your True Self and Guard Your Kids, by, of course, Peter Gerlach. So this book is essentially lesson one that's on the website. So I figured what I'd do, instead of trying to, you know, get on my phone or get on the computer and end up being distracted by other things that's not serving me, I'd get the book itself and take time to read through the book and work it from the book. And if I need to get on the website, excuse me, I'll do so. I just got this in today. I've only read the preface. I haven't even gotten through the acknowledgments. I like to read the book from beginning to end. But yeah, it definitely talks about, you know, the history of Pete and how he got into IFS therapy very briefly, and some of what happened in his life, because he was most definitely a not only how that commercial go. I'm not only a president, I'm also a client. So he was also a client of Parts Work. And so he has first-rate testimony, a ground zero testimony in how this stuff helps you in your life to remove or reduce psychological wounds or limiting beliefs. There's so many different ways that you can title these things. But this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be reading from this book and working my parts and trying to get back to what I experienced in session one of my IFS therapy from 2016, to release some of these limiting beliefs, these grown wounded children that I have within me, so I can release myself from these burdens and begin to live a real life. I appreciate you watching. This has been New Leafs on Life.